Hello everybody and welcome to That's Football, Chelsea's next owner. This is really hotting up, and I tell you what, I am really interested in it. I'm not even a Chelsea fan. I think it's so intriguing, not exciting, because I'm a United fan, there's not a lot exciting at the moment, but intriguing to see a football club up for sale. And I don't remember the last time this happened. Somebody in the chat might know this, but Newcastle was taken over, and we've seen clubs taken over, but a club that's had to be sold, and you've got loads of bidders and there's people dropping out. We're going to go through prospective buyers. What I will say at the start is I'm not a Chelsea fan. It's your football club and you have the right to argue and debate who you want to have. But as an outsider looking at it, I think it's really, really interesting. And the one thing I will say from the outset, and I did say it, I said it a few weeks ago when it all kicked off and people like Chelsea are finished, I saw the naivety and almost stupidity in those statements. It was never going to happen. Chelsea were never going out of business. They were never going to have to do a fire sale. This was never going to happen. And so it's come to pass, because ultimately what's happened is you're ended up with 7 or 8 consortiums or individual billionaires wanting to buy this club for around 2.2 billion, I think it is. And there's now conversations to find who's the best person going to be. You're not in a one-horse show where basically you've got to go with who you've got. You're not going to end up with what we had, where the Glazers, took hold of the club and we had no choice in it. Man United was never up for sale. It was just taken over by the Glazers. That's not going to happen to Chelsea. You're going to have basically... It's like going to a car auction, and this is a beautiful Ferrari, and who wants to buy it? And everyone puts their bid in, and the seller goes, right, who do we want to be the right owner for us? And I think Chelsea will buy Declan Rice. I think Chelsea will buy a striker if they want to in the summer, and I think Chelsea are going to be around for a very long time with a different type of ownership, but I still think they're going to be around for a long time, and I still think they're going to be competing for big trophies. The question is who they go for next. And look, I'm going to quote an article from the BBC on this, because there appears to be 2 front runners now. From what I was reading, there was a Saudi media group, they're out. Nick Candy, who's a British millionaire, he's out. I think Ricketts is the one that people were struggling with a little bit. Woody Johnson, owner of the New York Jets, he's apparently out. Ricketts' family, I think they're in the Chicago Cubs baseball team. Apparently they're very much looking like they're going to be out. And it's looking like it's almost becoming a 2-horse race between 2 consortiums. I mean, look, as I said, it's not for me to talk about it, but between the 2 consortiums, if I look at about it here, I think is it Sir Martin Broughton, who is a lifelong Chelsea fan, former British Airways chairman, and he's in a consortium with people called Harris and Blitzer, who are American billionaires, minority Crystal Palace shareholders. Apparently they would sell that, Josh Harris and David Blitzer. And they're significant investors in the consortium, which is led by Sir Martin Broughton. Billionaires, investment consortium. I think Sebastian Coe, who is Sir Sebastian Coe, who was involved in the London 2012 bid, is involved in that consortium. So that's interesting. A lot of money to invest, and also Chelsea lifelong fan, and Sir Sebastian Coe obviously involved in the London 2012. Maybe that's a decent thing. You've then also got another US businessman. I think his name is, I wrote it down, is it Todd Bowley, who's got another consortium that includes Swiss billionaire Hans-Jörg Wyss, and they are joined by American PR executives Barbara Sharon, British businessman Jonathan Goldstein, and British journalist Daniel Finkelstein. And the group is working with US-based investment from Clear Lake Capital, which is about 60 billion, 45.6 billion pounds of assets under management. And yeah, so it's interesting. I think that Bowley's involved with the LA Dodgers as well. What I would say is that if those 2 are to be the 2 candidates to take this Chelsea ownership, they're in a good position. I wish Manchester United were in this position, whereby I hope that Chelsea are going to consider the fans in this, and I think that there is a stance that they want to be fans. And I think Sir Martin Broughton has said that as part of their consortium, they want to put the fans at the heart of the club. I mean, that's always a good thing to hear. I mean, look, I don't know. If I was a Chelsea fan, from what I've looked at, and I haven't gone as deep, I mean, Chelsea fans are going to be reading through everything, aren't they? Because it's their club. But from what I've looked at it, I personally think that the Harris and Blitzer, led by Sir Martin Broughton, is the better option. But that's up to you. I'd love some Chelsea fans to get in the chat and tell us what they're thinking, because it's your football club. And as I said, this is really intriguing. I can't remember a big top 6 club being up for sale and having so many bidders coming in. What normally happens is the owner of the club, if it was the Glazers or if it was Kroenke, they'd be speaking to somebody they want to sell for that's best for them. What's happened in Ukraine is horrible, and it's forced this situation where Abramovich has been taken out of Chelsea. But what it has created is this situation that Chelsea's for sale, and basically it's an auction and it's who's best for the club. So you shouldn't get it wrong, and I think that's the headline for me. Chelsea are not like Man United, the Glazers, oh, we're going to sell to this person because we want to make a load. When the Glazers sell United, they're not going to go, let's have a look at who's best for the fans, who's best for the club. They're going to go, let's have a look who's making the biggest bidder. We'd be in a very dangerous position, Manchester United. A lot of United fans, myself included, would rather the Glazers weren't in charge, but who they sell to will be about how much money they want to make. They're not going to do what's happening here. This, for Chelsea, is a massive opportunity. Now, I know a lot of Chelsea fans liked the ownership of Abramovich, and why wouldn't you? I mean, apart from what's happening here in real life, in a footballing sense, look at how successful they've been. But the scenario Chelsea have now is a really opportunist one, because you've got so many people wanting to buy your club. You can analyse all of those and go with the best person. I understand, and I remember I've spoken to a couple of Chelsea fans with this, and I basically said just don't go with any owner who owns an American franchise. But I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair. I think that's just very biased because we've got the Glazers. But what I would say is, if you've got an owner who is an owner of an American franchise, whether it's baseball, basketball or football, I think the problem we've had with the Glazers amongst many is that they view football as they view Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that it doesn't matter if you don't win a title for 20 years, you can still make a lot of money off the franchise. And United have become a bit of a franchise. We basically are very lucrative, even though we don't win trophies. Whereas football, it's not like that. You can't not win the Premier League for 20 years and go, well, we're still a massive club. Football fans are different. And I'm not saying that American football fans aren't different, but not everyone. There's only the Super Bowl to win, isn't there? There's not the Champions League, there's not a Carabao Cup, there's not an FA Cup, there's not a Premier League trophy, there's the Super Bowl, and that's what it's all about. So it's a different type of sport. And I'll repeat it back. I'm very interested to see what happens as an outsider, because I think Chelsea have a great opportunity here. And I don't feel vindicated. I just feel that it was very obvious this was going to happen. The world was ending. Chelsea are finished. You had rival fans laughing about it, saying, ha, they're getting the £1 bus to the away game and they're finished and finally they're getting what they deserve. And it's almost like dancing around somebody, it's like the lion. Chelsea are the lions, isn't it? The lion, the king, is dying on the floor and people are running around it going, ha. And actually it's not dying. It's just got a thorn in its foot, and when it removes that and heals that little wound, it's going to come back roaring. And I never saw it happening with Chelsea. I never saw them going down because or into this whatever people thought they were going to, this oblivion. Because actually Chelsea, if you wanted to buy a football club, I'd buy Chelsea. I mean, I'd buy Man United first, but I mean, taking away the team that I support, if I had the money, I'd buy Chelsea. I'd love it. I mean, they've got so much potential. They've got so much recent history of success. They're in London. They're a big draw. They've just won a Champions League again. It was always going to happen. They were always going to get investment, and I think they're in a really good position. And you look at Man City and you look at Newcastle and the wealth they've got. It's great to have that wealth, but Chelsea are going to have that wealth as well. Anyway, make sure you smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe. Get your comments in below. Tell me what your thoughts are. And I'll be interested to read them, especially from the Chelsea fans. But what do you think about it if you're not a Chelsea fan? What do you think about this situation? Are you envious that Chelsea have this basic auction where they've got so much interest as well? I mean, what I would say finally is, as a United fan or an Arsenal fan, imagine if this happened to United or Arsenal. How many different bidders and consortiums you'd have to look at and choose from. It must be a really interesting situation for Chelsea fans and an exciting one ultimately. Thanks for watching. Smash a like on the video. I'll speak to you all soon.